I know when he arrived, one of the elements, one of the things he said, I am going to be who's on the desk first and who's here last.
So you see that trader over there? If he's here, you're here. That's your benchmark because of that.
Over time, hopefully they cultivate that trust that they know what we're saying is for their best interest.
Alex, yesterday we had an absolute huge day for a particular trader, one of our latest live traders on our floor. Only been live for just about 6 months, and he closed his first 5-figure day. It was a great day for me to witness and for us all to see. How would you describe his progression, his performance, and his bottom line numbers, and how he's doing that right now and how he's performing?
Yeah, so this is a trader that we actually sourced from our 6-month blueprint program. So he'd gone through our 6-week career program. He was doing it remotely. He's French. He's based on the northern part of France, I think, on the border to Switzerland or Italy. And we were watching him in our Discord room, and he was posting these debriefs. We're very impressed with his ability to translate his learning from what he was observing in the training, applying that in the markets. But at the same time, as I understand, he was also doing these global funding trials, passing, failing, kind of the cycle that many people face when they're doing these remote funding trials. Anyway, but what we liked, and what's always different with our funding trial environment, what we really enjoyed or observed is his learning acumen. Because we judge a person first on their learning acumen before we judge their PML. And observing his consistency of every day in our debrief Discord channel, putting on his debriefs, the coaches reviewing his debriefs, and seeing that, man, he's rather aligned to a trader that's on our floor, and his debrief quality is potentially better than many of our junior traders on the floor. And so we reached out to him behind the Discord channel and said, well, if you want to, we can offer you a scholarship in our Cyprus office. So reached out to him. He's incredibly excited. He modeled a large part of his development on a trader that he just met 2 weekends ago in Thessaloniki. We had a Greek bouzouki night out. We took a couple of our Cyprus traders out, and then the warrior from Traders of Our Time joined us. And this trader had watched the warrior's videos over the last few years on YouTube, watching his $1 million trade on Pfizer, his $1 million trade on an Iran oil trade, and watching how he designed his ladders, how he colored his ladders. And so he mimicked. It was almost like this edge mimicry of the warrior. But this was also incredible, is that there's someone who's remote, far away from a physical Axia office, able to interface, almost embody the warrior spirit. And you could see that in the quality of his debriefs. So we reached out, and he joined us near the back end of last year. And he joined it at a time when Trump 2.0 came in. Now, what's so important is when a junior trader joins a desk, every desk has its own edge sphere, where there are a couple of senior traders who are really good in a certain domain. You go to Rome, where we have the engineer and the hero. They're exceptional on profile technical trades. You step into that domain, you want to learn, because your harvesting or your mining of edge is significantly more powerful if it's with traders in that space. And so he arrived in Cyprus. He had benchmarked his game on the warrior and his ability to trade narrative and news. And he entered an environment where there was very good news traders. And so he had a resonant frequency for that type of edge by design and default. And therefore, mining in that area, you'd get the return on learning effort to be significantly more powerful. And so he arrived, he learned all new tactical approaches to seeing the news quicker, to managing news trades, to how to build a narrative. And on the simulator, we actually put him live fairly quickly. We put him live within, I think, usually takes us around 6 months on the floor, minimum 6 months. Then we put him live within 3 months. And we put him live, and he started okay. And then he hit his first wobble, which we were waiting for. We want to see a wobble. And I know you love to see a wobble.
Oh, I love a wobble.
And because the wobble is to start seeing the test of the character. And a classic wobble is they stop making money, the edge that they're working on that isn't as prolific, or it becomes more difficult. And so maybe around, I think it went live March. 2 months in, he started questioning how he traded news. He started questioning whether news trading was for him. And only because news trading became more skillful, the narrative where he went live on the simulator, performing on the simulator on news strategies, by the time he went live, the theme had advanced, and therefore he started questioning himself. Instead of questioning, I actually need to level up my skill even higher. Actually having gratitude for higher challenge in the markets, taking that gratitude to then focus his curiosity in picking up that skill, widening spectrum and speaking to other news traders who are more experienced. How am I going to navigate a more tricky narrative in the market? And what happened very quickly, and the collector speaks about this, the junior traders that he feels improves the quickest are the ones where they get feedback from the coach or from the collector and there's an immediate reaction. And I know you have dealt with him many. I mean, he's one of your spawned original children on the floor, and you've had many conversations with him. So you've had significantly more interactions with him, than I have. What's his reaction when he gets given feedback?
Yeah. So yeah, going back to what you were just saying, his progression has been super quick, and that's for no other reason than the work and the effort that he puts in to everything. Yes, with the feedback, and I think this is something that happens to maybe quite a lot of grads and traders that go live. When they first get some kind of feedback back, they might question it. They might have a bit of a wobble. And I think that's just quite natural with some of them, because they almost have this one track in their mind that they want to kind of stick with and stick the point out. But the one thing that I and you and the collector, we've all noticed about this particular trader is how quick, once something is explained to him and we explain the reasons why it's what we're thinking, how we're trying to really level up his performance in his game through the conversations that we have with him. Once he sees that, he's very quick to almost, it's almost like he's driving on 3 lanes of the highway and he's veering off. It's very quick for him to get straight back in the center line, and the next day he comes back in and he's full throttle in the exact right path in the exact same place that he should be. And I think that's what's so pivotal with this particular trader, and what's been so good with him is that at first the feedback that he takes can be, a bit of pushback, like with again, I think it's something that we see with a lot of traders. But then when it sinks in and when he understands and he gets that point, he's very quick at fixing and almost aligning himself back to the direction that he sees. And I think that's been, in my opinion, hugely pivotal to his success.
Yeah, and provided, on top of that, I know one of the hallmark features for you, where you'll cut traders from the desk, where you will come down on new traders really hard, is I know when he arrived, one of the things he said, I'm going to be who's on the desk first and who's here last. And what did he do?
So at that time it was me. I was there, always opening, always closing doors, because we were going through this period of new grads as well coming in, so it was a very busy time. And I said it was me, and good luck in beating me to it, right? Especially my house, fortunately, is 5 minutes away from the office. And he said, "Oh no, I'll be here before you, and I'll be here after you." And I was very quick to go, "Yeah, okay, all right, we'll see." And again, naturally, Anyway, we've got these revolving doors and all these new grads that come in, they come in with all the enthusiasm in the world. And that enthusiasm is great. You need that. That's your ignition. But you got to have a good engine to keep pushing through. And he has, to this day, kept to it. He's still in before me, and he still leaves after me. And he's almost like the benchmark now for me with the grads. When especially with the new guys that come on the floor, and that, like now we're stemming into a new blueprint program, 6-month program, and I've got a couple of guys who are starting, and listing all the expectations. I said, you see that trader over there? If he's here, you're here. That's your benchmark because of that, just because of that.
And speaking with regards to those types of benchmarks, is a lot of traders say, oh, well, you're going to burn out, you're going to be fatigued, you're going to struggle. Well, if you look at this trader, he's probably the best in shape of the entire 20 odd traders that we have. He's the best in shape because he balances all elements. He's at his desk longer than anybody else. He creates his own luck because he's at his desk longer than anybody else. And on weekends, he makes use of our swimming pool, our gym, after work, at the end of the day, or before work. We're fortunate in Cyprus, to be in before the European Open. It's just before 10. He can be in the gym before that. So he manages outside the desk so he can be prime at the desk. And so there's those elements of routine, rituals, the engine, as you mentioned. But that, those wobbles where he was, struggling, the team, I know the collector and then one of other junior to senior traders who's had an almost, 7-figure over the past 12 months, they pulled him aside. They all went out for, drinks on a Friday or Saturday night. And they said, don't lose faith in this edge that you're developing. And sometimes just that little, because experienced traders have seen it all as well. They've seen guys come and go, and they can spot someone who has the ability, has the drive, has the hunger, just to realign them, to get onto that center part of the highway. And that reaction function, now, every trader, in the beginning of your career, your reaction function might be very ego-orientated, like what the hell the risk managers team saying, why are they saying this? And we've got all this experience, and they all have this reaction, but over time, hopefully they cultivate that trust that they know what we're saying is for their best interest. A lot of times in the beginning, they think, we keep their wrist too tight, and that's why they can't perform, but it's their ego, always speaking. One of the other aspects that people ask, and I actually had a phone call with a couple of young prop traders who are setting up their own prop desk, is how do you size up traders? When do you size up traders? And I know we had, you and I had this conversation, and I'd love to hear just your recollection of when we are giving a trader more size. Does that equate to more risk? Is my question.
No. And that's the short answer to it is no. As you can have more size, of course, but the size and the gap, if you will, of the risk don't work in linear forms, right? Your risk management has to stay very strict and tight all the way through, regardless of whether you've got 10 lots, 50 lots, or 100 lots. Now, I understand from a personal perspective of a new trader who's gone live, they want this big breadth of comfort to have bigger risk. But our job is to make sure that, again, it goes to that trust function that you said earlier. We always, and something that Axia built on is trust with the traders, is that we want to know that if we can trust these traders with the risk that they have, then as they scale up, as they get bigger, then we can start adjusting risk, which is my opinion. But if you can handle the sizes that you have in terms of the lots that we give you, that you're able to trade, you should still be able to handle it with the same amount of risk that you've already got. It shouldn't be a case of, like, for example, in this case, we I think at one stage we doubled
We doubled his risk, yeah.
all his size.
I mean, sorry, we
Yeah, we
doubled
doubled
his
his
size.
size,
Yeah.
but we didn't double the risk. And I mean, even me at first, I kind of was like, oh, should we not? And then, of course, we had that conversation, and I mean, how much can you keep? You can keep doubling the size that you've got, but how far can you keep doubling the risk? Because it won't work like that. It can't go from you've got 2.5 to 5 to 10 to 20 to 40. Like, it just does not work.
Yeah, and I think just add to that is maybe not as much as doubling. You can kind of keep on doubling risk to a certain point, but when you're giving a trader more size, you're telling him he's getting better at his edge, and therefore he's getting more accurate. And so you're also rewarding accuracy, and because you're rewarding accuracy for that trader, that he can nail it with less risk effectively, that you can increase his size by double, and you're increasing his risk by 1.3x, whereas you're 2xing his size. And with that comes I used to speak, to an old, very successful friend in the financial markets, is also increasing your size is a great discipline technique, because sometimes you become too long in the tooth, too used to a certain size, and therefore you can get sloppy in your trading. So one of the aspects for him was, I'm always going to, as long as I'm like, doing okay, I'm going to put pressure on increasing the size because I'm going to be more honest with the setup, so I'm going to be executing. So we at Axia actually like to, sometimes we'll give them a little bit of a shock out of nowhere and say, listen, we're doubling your size next day. We're known within our space. I remember, some other firms, you really have to put a huge business case to increase size. But a huge business case, if you have edge, have size, for us, you still have to put a business case, but you just have to say, like, why do you want to size in this market and this product? What's your plan? Just so we can see they're thinking, ticking along. And so a large part, a little part of this trader's journey where there was some friction with the risk management team was, I want more risk because that's why I'm not getting on some of the trades. But for him, the better question is, you want more risk, but you actually have to get more accurate. You have to select the trades where, as you enter with conviction, you're on side immediately. And that's
Yeah, and that goes to also all we're doing is we're just sharpening that sword, just even more for them, especially over the long term. Again, like I say, yes, the risk, it could be a thing. Oh, I've got more space, but do you need that space? If you can really sharpen and dial down and really hone in, especially the way that this individual trades, you're on side with what you have. You've got so much more to put onto the table. And again, yes, of course, there's always going to be, I think, a little bit of pushback with it at first. But again, in credit to him, once we explain the situation and situations like this, he automatically takes it, and he goes with what he's got and he pushes. And that's what I love to see about him as well. He knows when to push.
Now, I know, like with all of our traders, they watch these videos, and so we've been talking him up a bit, but now he will still face multiple challenges ahead. And for me, and we actually spoke about it just this past week, is that his skill in data trading needs significant data trading, and central bank trading needs a significant upgrade, because the news trading, which is improving upon every single time, there's macro, his narrative understanding. He made 10K plus yesterday on an OPEC announcement. And so that skill is moving, is working in the right direction. He's getting that positive reinforcement, which means it's even easier to work on that skill even more because he's receiving the evidence. Whereas when you're not receiving evidence in other domains, this is what happens. You start going, due north, P&L wise and skill wise in area, and it's easy to work on that area. But it's always difficult to work in an area where you're making money in one area and this other area you're lagging. But as we know, as I've been through too many cycles, environments change, themes run dry, old strategies become defunct or just go out of season until the next season comes. And so one of our core focuses with him now is there's a couple of traders he has a trader that's based in the London office, who's been with us for the past month. Really, developed, is multiple, 7-figure a year trader, and he's sitting right next to him. And this trader was also very similar to this junior trader, strong on news, strong on themes, but had never learned before until he came to Axia how to trade data, how to trade technical trades. Those were all witchcraft. For him, the holy grail strategy was news. You can control your risk, you control how you attack that. But now this trader has developed, we had this incredible, 7-part session every 2 weeks with Angus Fletcher. He had a session with Angus Fletcher, got incredible feedback on how he trades data trading. And his learning reflection is super fast, incredibly efficient. He takes a lesson, he implements the changes. Some people just don't implement changes. There's a huge lag effect, or it never happens. They don't know how to kind of be discomfort in applying the new techniques that they learned. And so he's now all of a sudden pushing really good numbers on trading economic data. And so for this junior trader is, well, and this is, one of your core skills and core responsibilities. How am I going to connect and broker for this trader to learn from this senior trader who's developed the skill set? So he starts acquiring the fruits of being able to become a good data trader. Because then all of a sudden he starts thinking, I can trade macro themes. I can now trade data events. Now, they too have very different types of execution styles. So that's why it's hard to transfer from the one you can get best price, the other one you're getting on a blip because the algos get in first. But their tactics and strategies are what you do on the blip, depending on the data and how out of line. But he has to devote the same effort and the same energy towards increasing that skill set. And then all of a sudden, he starts navigating that environment. Because in 2022, if you're a good data trader in 2022, as a trader with 5+ years experience, you're making multiple 7 figures in 2022 when the Fed were moving rates at 75 basis clips, and therefore non-farm payroll CPIs were super important. And so these are the thing. And the other part is we want him to improve on central bank trading. But we've ticked one edge, but not ticked it completely. It's growing. It's showing some positive evidence. How can we make sure that still keeps on growing? And how are we armoring him with more bows, with more ammunition to deploy across multiple environments?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the exercises that we do with him, we get weekly check-ins with him in terms of not what he's been doing with his trades per se, but actually what he's been learning from the traders around him. And it's something that, I've already spoken to him about as well. We're talking to this other trader, and it's that hybridized trading, because like you say, the environments are not going to stay the same. They are going to shift. They're going to change. Volatility is going to change. And it's something, again, I always like to, whatever we're seeing at that level, it's always trickling down as well, down to the grads, where, we have the new grads coming in who are purely technical focused, and now understanding, I really need to be understanding my narrative right now. We need to, hence why we're so strict on pre-market preps in the morning, every morning on the grad floor. How, we're integrating that with everybody and everybody's opinion, whether they're discussing news, narrative, technical, flow, all of these different events, because yes, they're going to be strong. They're going to have their comfort zone, but they need to know. And this is where the other trader that we've spoken about recently, who he was so good at knowing where the opportunities were and being able to take the money from the market when the opportunities were there. And it's such a skill, I think, that's going to be, I'm hoping to see, and it's going to be exciting to see his progression to acquiring all of that skill.
Yeah, and just to finish off, one thing that I didn't mention that's always incredibly exciting as a coach and team. Those who've read the Razors chapter in Traders of Our Time, if he came from Italy, couldn't really speak English properly, to come over to London, because there's no prop firms in Italy, there's no, DOM trading. You can even trade remotely on the DOM like you can now if you were living in Italy. And he took that Christopher Columbus voyage, that Marco Polo voyage, that Jan van Riebeck going to and discovering South Africa, and went across from Italy to London, and he created one of the most phenomenal, formidable futures day trading careers. And this is what this young French trader has done, is he left France to come to Cyprus, a country he'd never been to before, into unknown territory. And it's that type of spirit, that type of sense of adventure too, that does get rewarded. But we've had a few people come with that sense of adventure, come to a different country, but the moment it becomes too foreign for them, they do start buckling. But embrace that foreign, that anew. We live in a climate, we live in an environment where we love certainty. And the more you expose yourself in your normal life to maybe going on a different route to work, or just exposing to kind of some spontaneity, some little bit of chaos in your life, to kind of just understand that discomfort is quite a cool thing as a human being. And so when we have a trader kind of pack his bag, do the voyage over, that's our first little and then we want to see the first wobble, see what his reaction function is on that. And so we're very excited for this trader. Still has a super long journey ahead. But he's done some smart things by mining the right edge on the floor, as opposed to a junior trader who arrives, doesn't mine the knowledge capital of the floor, just wants to mine his own edge that he learned even before he arrived on the floor, and they take significantly longer to get there.